up, everybody?
Hi, you guys. It feels like it's been a million years since we talked to you last.
Oh my goodness, yes, it does. For real.
Man. All right. So today is Thursday, but we're having Wellness Wednesday today because our guest could not make it yesterday. Because he is a doctor and he had an emergency a patient come in. So we totally understood. He said he can be on today. So we'll be looking forward to him coming on today. His name is Dr. Hollis, and he is out of Blue Springs, and he is an amazing doctor. The last time he was on, we had a lot of positive feedback, and prayerfully, he will be a regular. I know he's busy. Of course, we want a doctor that's that's busy. But I'm hoping that he can come on and be with us on a regular basis because he's got a wealth of knowledge. He's so much like Crystal in so many ways. They geek out, you guys, when they talk to each other. It's kind of fun just being that fly on the wall. So hi, Miss Crystal, how are you?
Hi, I'm doing well. How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good today. Doing pretty good. We're going to talk about one of my most favorite things in the entire world, and that's sleep.
hmm
That's one of the things I love the most. I really do. But before we get started, I would like for you to please, um, tell us about your journey. Tell us about your health issues and how you were able to get them back into balance and um, why we do Wellness Wednesday.
All right. Well, I'm a natural health and herb specialist and a holistic health coach. And the reason I do this is because years ago, I was diagnosed with ulcerative colitis. It's an inflammatory bowel disease that affects the colon. And it really got me on my deathbed. I lost over 30 pounds in a month. I went down to 97 pounds. And I was hospitalized for several days. Doctors basically said if you were any older that, you know, you probably would have died. You wouldn't have made it through this. And then they started talking about even surgery. They talked about chemo. They talked about being on ulcerative colitis medication, steroids, you name it. And I did try some things. I did try the steroids for the inflammation. And I did try ulcerative colitis medication and the medication specifically for the inflammatory bowel disease. I refused chemo and I refused surgery for sure. And I gave it a chance, but it made things worse. It just made me sicker. Steroids were horrible to be on. I don't know if anyone here listening today has ever had to take steroids on a regular basis even. I had to take it for 6 months and I was like, it wasn't really getting down the inflammation like it's supposed to. It made me very irritable, angry. It was easy to gain weight on steroids. You just feel like you can't stop eating. It does deteriorate your bones. I could go on. But anyways, the point being is I said this is just not the option for
It
me.
can even cause cancer. It
Yeah,
can even cause cancer. Well, we know somebody famous that it did actually cause testicular cancer, and
right.
that was the biker. Why is his name just escaping me?
That's
The
fun.
biker, the guy that was the biker, and everybody was Live Strong for
Oh, ho-
The Armstrong.
yeah,
Armstrong.
yeah.
Yeah. Oh
Yep.
my
I don't
God,
remember
his
his name
name.
either. It's
Oh
so
yeah,
long, but we know
yeah,
what we're talking about. If you
yeah,
were
yeah.
older than a millennial, probably.
Yeah, I mean, he had cancer throughout his entire body, and for him to beat it was absolutely a miracle. But the reason why he got that was because he was on steroids.
Too long. Yeah.
Oh
Steroids
my
also
God.
cause like
Yeah,
osteoporosis,
yeah,
lose bone density, mass, all
mhm,
kinds of stuff. Yeah.
yeah.
So that just wasn't working, right? And I met a naturopathic doctor who is now a good friend of mine and also a colleague. She's taught me so much, and among many other instructors and professors, I just learned so much from learning herbs. And I said I got to learn what I got to learn because this stuff ain't working. So I learned herbs. I learned lifestyle, nutrition. I changed all that in my own life, and here I am today with a full bill of health. No more ulcerative colitis. The doctors told me I'd have that for the rest of my life, that I'd have to be on medication for the rest of my life, that, I probably could develop cancer, all these things because yada, yada, yada. Well, here I am, beat it because of lifestyle and diet change and taking the right pharmaceutical grade supplements. The right nutrition matters. Your body can do what it
Really
needs to
good.
do.
Hmm.
And that's why we do Wellness Wednesday because, we just want to share the good. Health is wealth, and we want to
Yeah,
share that, and we got to bring back people back to, the beginning of time. Stuff isn't new. This has been around for centuries. Herbalist or, just just all this knowledge, and we don't even know. A lot of people I talk to, they know nothing about herbs, or like new people that I'm talking to, and when they start using it, they start realizing the benefits of them, and they start seeing their heart's doing better. They start seeing that their stomach is doing better, that their anxiety is subsiding and stuff like that. Like they were like, how can nutrition do this? Well, food is medicine, and that's what we're here to teach today.
Yeah. Yeah, well, okay, before medicines and doctors were about, all of us were herbalists. If you think about how we came to, I mean, when we were, I don't want to say Neanderthal, but we were back in those days, Egyptian days and all those days. I mean, that's what we were on, were herbs.
Yep.
It's only in the modern 100 years, maybe, that medicine start taking over. And
Mm-hmm.
that's not very long ago, you guys. 100 years. We know people that are still living that are 100 years. So if you think about it, we have handed over our health to chemicals. And we need to just take all that back, because that's what we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you're just so much healthier. The thing about meds, and I'm not downing anything, but I just want to bring people to know that, just like with herbs, though, um, it doesn't happen with just one thing in your body. Like, say, for instance, I had a headache. If I take Advil, it's going to affect my liver, my stomach. Not it'll get rid of my headache, but it could adversely affect other things in my body.
It
Just
does.
Advil.
Mm-hmm.
Tylenol. They're saying Tylenol is very hard for the liver.
It very much is.
Yes.
It's hard for the liver and the kidneys.
Acetaminophen, is that what it
Mm-hmm.
is?
Yep.
Acetaminophen?
Acetaminophen. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Mhm.
It's very, even one dose of
Exactly.
Tylenol is critical to the health. Like
So they're
it's
telling you to not do that to children anymore. Don't give kids Tylenol anymore, is what they're saying, you guys.
Yep.
I'm not telling you to do that. You're your kid's
I will tell
parent.
you something. Bringing this up too makes
Okay.
is something that I went through before I did herbs, before I did natural stuff. Like this was
Mhm.
like before I was 18 years old.
Right.
I used to have migraines. I used to have all kinds, with my stomach issues and stuff. And I would take a ton of ibuprofen, a ton of naproxen sodium. Like I was on that stuff, you guys. I had bad menstrual cycles. I would have to skip 1 to 2 days each month when I was in school, to skip school because I had to. I was curled up in a ball with the worst cramps and too much, bleeding, which was too much estrogen.
Right.
And I would take 4 ibuprofen just to try to knock the pain off a little bit.
Yeah.
4 of them, and I was a young teenager, you guys, and I've never was over 120 pounds. So if that tells you something, I was taking entirely way too much, and you wonder why I had gut issues possibly. You
Yeah.
wonder why all my digestive issues, when the liver gets bombarded with something like that, your liver does over 500 functions in the body, and it produces these certain enzymes that our body needs. So if we are damaging it, or if
Mhm.
we're bombarding it with something that it doesn't filter out very well, we're going to have issues with other problems in the body. Our body's interconnected everywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if that
Yeah.
tells you something, I haven't always been the naturalist. I haven't always been the herbalist. I grew up just like everybody else,
Right.
going to the doctor, getting medications, being on antibiotics. I was on an antibiotic probably twice a year, every year when I was a kid, which killed all my gut bacteria, which would, gut issues galore, you know, like I had sinus infections every single year, probably twice a year. I got strep throat every single year. Okay.
Oh, no.
And I would be on antibiotics for every single one of those things. And do you know what sinus means in Greek? Sinus means
Sewage.
sewer.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And what is your sewer? Your sewer is your colon. I was damaging my colon.
And you only got that realization as you became to know how your body function, how medicines function, and being an herbalist. So you didn't know that during the process. You only
No.
found that out afterwards. So education is key.
Yeah.
Education is key.
My
And that's
diet was
another
not good
reason why
either.
we do Wellness Wednesday, is because we want you guys to get educated on these things so that you will know. Let me think second. let me have a second thought or know that there's a better alternative before I give my child acetaminophen or the other naproxen. No, is that what the name of?
Naproxen sodium, that's not
Yeah,
acetaminophen, it's not the Tylenol, but
I
it's
know.
definitely,
That's what I'm saying.
yeah,
I mean, there are other medicines
the
that we give to our
NSAIDs or whatever you
kids.
call it. Yeah, I forgot what they call that. But the thing, yeah, it causes ulcers. It can cause ulcers. Those type of
Exactly.
over the counter
Exactly.
medications that you take to get rid of pain can cause ulcers. And what did
And
I have?
actually, you guys, fevers are not a bad thing.
No, they are not.
Fevers are to allow your body to fight whatever infection it is trying to fight. So
Yeah,
when we give things to children to suppress the fever, we need to let that ride out. Now, of course, if it gets over 103, which is what I've never let my children get over 103, they're either in a cool bath or in the hospital. I've never had to do that. I put them in a bath. And not a cool one, by the way. It's normally a warm one because a cold one can put them into more. But
yeah,
anyway, read up on that. But fevers are not a bad thing. So you don't necessarily have to always give your children anything for fevers.
yeah.
It's there for a
Um,
reason.
Alexis had a really high fever when she was little, 105.6.
Oh
Yeah.
my gosh.
But I started doing stuff, around 103. When it gets up to 103, you might wanting to do some things, but your body does heat up because a virus cannot live in heat like that.
Right.
That's why your body heats up in
That's
order to
right.
kill the virus. And the hotter it heats up, probably the worse the virus is, right?
Yes.
So when we break that fever, we're also prolonging the infection.
Yeah.
And so we're wondering why the infection's not dying, and we just keep feeding ourselves Tylenol or whatever it is to bring that Motrin to bring it down. What you want to do is actually kill the infection. And so there's some different things we do, like garlic enema. We use vitamin C, we use essential oils, and I've broken my daughter's fevers throughout her entire life with just really essential oils.
Naturally.
So
Hmm.
yeah, silver, colloidal silver, and we use a lot of vitamin C. We've done garlic enemas before. When she hit that 105.6, temperature, we brought it down with a garlic enema, and within 30 minutes, her fever was broke, and she was sick for like 2 days straight. Could not drink that day when she had that 105.6 temperature. She couldn't eat or drink. I couldn't even get a teaspoon of water down this
Wow.
child. So I had to do this garlic enema. It was the only way. And your colon is where you absorb most of your nutrients and everything, where everything goes into action.
That's right.
So that's why we do the garlic enema. And garlic is like a natural antibiotic, antiviral, and it affects it quickly. So why did it break the fever? Because it was fighting that infection off. It was helping
Yeah.
her body. It wasn't suppressing anything. It was actually helping her body, giving it what it needs to fight it off. And that's why her
Right.
fever broke within 30 minutes. And after that, she was able to start drinking water, start eating a little bit. And the next day was like she wasn't even sick. It was weird. It was crazy. Like that blows my mind with natural stuff. I've never
Yeah.
had an antibiotic do that for me in my entire life.
And you're not harming the body. You're not harming the
Yeah,
body when you do things naturally like that. Like
right.
she other things could have been happening to her when that was, going on inside of her, and you gave her something totally natural,
Right.
and the effects happened the way that it needed to happen. So my point is, we don't necessarily have to always throw medicine at our kids. Our bodies are designed to do certain things, and fever is one of them.
Yep.
Having a
So
fever
yeah,
is one of them. So
we can talk about natural stuff like all day long, but today we are definitely going to be talking about sleep and possibly a little bit about scoliosis and sleep, maybe. But
yeah.
without further ado, okay, I'd like to introduce Dr. Hollis because he is here with
Okay.
us today,
All right.
and he is just an amazing doctor. I had the chance of meeting him a few times now, and very exciting stuff I've learned from him already. The stuff he's done for my back already, I was amazed by the first visit. So um, having scoliosis for most of my life and feeling him do these things that just like, oh, I'm standing straighter already with the first little, so that's really cool. So without further
Yes,
ado,
Dr. Hollis, I've been with him for years and years and years. Dr. Hollis has been my well, no, we've done several things, um not just my back, but we've done other things. Like he's helped me with weight loss. He's helped me with my emotional issues. Like I can go talk to him. He's very spiritual. He loves the Lord, and He hasn't laid hands and prayed for me yet, but I'm sure he prays for me in other ways.
Every visit, I pray for every patient. I
Okay.
just I just don't always say it out loud if I don't know whether they want me to.
Right. Exactly. Smart guy. So anyway, this is my favorite. One of my favorite subjects is sleep. And the reason why it's one of my favorite subjects is because I love it. Number one. Number two, I know it's very beneficial for the body. And we don't talk enough about sleep. We
Hmm.
talk about
I
nutrition, we
agree.
talk about supplements, we talk about exercise, we talk about a lot of other things. But if we're not getting enough sleep, all of that other stuff is going to be harder for your body to deal with. And so I did my little bitty research, but I know that Crystal has some slides that she wants to share with us. And Dr. Hollis, as she's doing those slides, if you want to just chime in, please do so. So let's
Yeah,
start with the first
Sure.
slide. Let's start with the first one.
yeah, absolutely.
Or Dr. Hollis, did you have anything you wanted to say about sleep before we started the slides, or you want to do that?
May I?
Yeah,
Yeah.
go ahead. I
Uh,
love to hear.
Actually, two things.
Okay.
I couldn't hold the bit in my mouth any longer. You were mentioning the fever, and I
Oh,
wanted to
yeah.
say you should never break a fever,
Mm,
especially in a child. The fever is the only tried and true way for your body's immune system to kill off a foreign invader. And it goes back hundreds of thousands
Yeah.
of years. They didn't even, before they knew about Chinese herbs or medicinal oregano or medicinal garlic, the only thing they had was letting a fever run its course,
that's right.
or they would actually induce a fever if they
Hmm.
needed to purge someone from an illness, even cancer,
Yep.
and even a snake bite with venom in their body.
Yep.
So the fever should never be broken. I meet young parents that were told by their parents that you should do Tylenol and ibuprofen for these young children when they get a fever. That is the worst thing you can do. It
Right.
will prolong the infection, and you run the risk of creating secondary problems like acute bacterial endocarditis. And if
Hmm.
you give somebody endocarditis, they can actually have their heart permanently damaged. They could even die. And you can also create a toxic reaction to the ingredients in the quote fever reducer and painkiller. So
Hmm.
if someone has to reduce a fever, we tell our patients that it has to be at a minimum above 105. We don't mess with a fever. We get concerned when it gets to 103. We start monitoring the patient 24/7. But if it gets to 105, then we can start to bring it down. But we don't use drug therapy or NSAIDs. NSAIDs are not a great idea. So what we do is the only thing you really have to worry about with a high fever is the brain actually getting too hot. So
Hmm.
Right.
we do lukewarm baths, we do lukewarm showers, or we will take cold, wet compresses, or even just a wet washcloth that you can put in your freezer for a couple of minutes, and we wrap the four arteries of your neck, the two carotid arteries in the front, and there's two more arteries in the back. And when you cool the blood as it goes to your head, you
Yep.
will stop the cranial heat, but you will
Mm.
still allow your core, where your internal organs are, that will still stay hot, and that will still fight the infection.
I love
But
that.
the last little bit, and this is a
Yeah.
soapbox for me, but I promise I can keep it to one more sentence.
That's okay.
If you have to use drug therapy, in order of safety, especially for children, naproxen sodium, or otherwise known as Aleve, is the best, safest one.
Mm,
It's only usually one dose. You don't
that's
want
right.
to take a bunch of that. The second one is going to be ibuprofen, or they call it Advil or Motrin by the brand name. That is not really great, but it is still better than the third one, which is the acetaminophen or Tylenol. One dose of acetaminophen can kill a child. I've even seen it kill an adult.
Yep.
So you don't want to use Tylenol ever.
Yeah.
It also builds up in your body. I have truck drivers who tell me when they're doing a DOT physical, oh, I take 7 or 8 Tylenol a day. I've done it for 10 years. Well, they're lucky that they're not dead. They're rolling the dice. And then the next day, when their liver toxicity just can't handle it anymore, that next Tylenol is going to put them 6 feet under. So
yeah, I have to admit, I used to take 4 Tylenols. I'm sorry, 4 Advils every like 4 hours because of my back pain. So I have to admit, I did overdo it. So I'm glad though that I'm doing holistic things because my pain is diminishing, you guys. When you take inflammation out of your body, your pain diminishes and you don't seek out the chemical meds. And that's what we're talking about, you guys, are chemicals. When we get down to medication, it's only chemicals.
Mm-hmm.
So all I wanted to say was get the inflammation out of your bodies by eating correctly and have an alkaline environment, and your body can do so much better. You won't even need those things.
Absolutely.
Right. And how did you know my favorite subject is sleep?
I didn't.
Sleep
it's my favorite for sure.
Well, it's my favorite thing to do, but it's also my favorite subject to talk about.
There with you.
My body personally has always needed 10 to 12 hours of sleep since I was very little.
Wow.
And I grew up all the way through college getting 10 to 12 hours of sleep. And I always thought that I had a problem, that I was somehow had a metabolism issue, which I did have one, but that was due to my food allergies, which is another conversation we should have.
Yeah.
But I learned as I went through my internal medicine and functional medicine degree programs that it's actually not just healthy to get that much sleep. A healthy person needs it. And I had been raised by farming community where everything was natural and wellness oriented. And it's the persons that carry a lot of toxins that often feel like they can get away with less sleep because the body can't completely heal. So
I love that you said that. I love that.
Very interesting.
Yes.
That's very interesting. Since the age of 11, I've been a night owl. But I was a night owl because my grandmother and I slept in the same bed, and she used to watch everything at night, from the news to Carson, which was an hour and a half, to the Bijou, to the late show. Then I'd have to get up and go to school the next day. That was for 2 years straight. So my clock is off totally, even to this day. And then I had my husband, my late husband, was a highway patrolman. So he did 28 days and then 28 days nights. So I was on his schedule. Oh, yeah. I was on his schedule. So my sleeping is never correct.
Well,
man.
And oops, sorry about the squeak. One of the things that is so important to me about that is I'm the person, and Crystal and Kathy know this. I tell people I can stay up, but I never was good at getting up. I'm not a morning person.
Gotcha.
We open our clinic at 9 because I can't do 8. I could if I forced myself, but I never felt healthy that way. And what we learned as I went through and became my own doctor and learned how to treat myself, we learned that that is from an injury to my circadian rhythm when I was a young child. And it's not just the rhythm that you have a problem with, it's also the clock, which is not the same thing. And it's also going to create a cascade of hormone imbalances that come all the way down to where it can interfere with metabolism, digestion, even the the ADD and the ADHD uh, pandemic, to use a better word, that is going on with all of our young children. It's the hormones up in the brain that are being screwed up. And
Okay,
so,
so before you say one more thing, Crystal and I just had this conversation yesterday about the school starting earlier for our kids. And
yep,
I believe 100%, and I believe this for since I've had my own children, that they should be getting to school later
Yeah.
for several reasons. But one of the best reasons is that the kids are home 2, 3, 4 hours before their parents are getting home from work. That makes no
right,
sense to me.
right.
So we should have our kids start school 9, 10, even 11 o'clock in the day. I know that sounds like an actual paradigm shift for some people, but I think that they will function better and learn better if they were at school at a later time during the day.
Yeah. And that would give them time to eat a healthy breakfast, which we need for our thyroid function,
Right.
metabolism, all that. And thyroid function has to do a lot with the brain. If you feed the thyroid, you feed the brain.
Yeah.
So it's really
Well,
important. And all that sleep has a lot to do with the brain.
I mean, actually, when they wake up that early, they're not hungry, so they don't
Hmm.
want to eat.
Hmm.
So yeah, but the sleeping thing is that they're up so early in the morning on the bus stop before the sun even comes out, and then they have to ride on the bus and then go be functional at seven
Yeah.
o'clock in the morning. I know I'm not. So how are we expecting our children to be?
well, and
And I just think that's wrong.
I grew up in the country, and my father was the bus driver. I had a 2.5 hour ride to school every day and a 2.5 hour ride home. So I was getting up at 4 or 4:30. And then as a farmer's son, I was working until 9 or 10 at night. And
Right.
that's part of what I think that I got injured by. So it was my wonderful mother who put a stop to the keeping me up late to work. And that's when I discovered that I needed to go to bed at 6 o'clock. And if I was going to get up at 4, for me to function in school and to not have fatigue and not have brain fog and not be dragging my feet until noon. And so, if Crystal doesn't mind if I run with that, even people that are on split shifts or the
Mhm.
graveyard shift,
Yeah.
we can still teach them how to get the proper amount of sleep, and they can still treat their circadian rhythm. But even more important than thyroid hormone is cortisol hormone.
Mhm.
And if your cortisol is messed up, everything else is going to break down with it. You'll develop hypertension, which is high blood pressure. You'll develop diabetes and insulin resistance. And you'll develop the super early aging, which is what we call the stress response from
Yep.
the cortisol.
Sleep, it
So,
has a lot to do with anti-aging. I love that.
yep. The ironic thing about cortisol is it is designed to help you manage your stress during the day. But when you extra secrete cortisol or at the wrong time of the day, it becomes a stressor on the rest of your body. So, one of the things that I teach all of my internal medicine patients, usually on the first or if not the second visit, we talk about their sleep quality. I have them keep a sleep journal if necessary. And then, of course, we talk about their water intake, which is my second favorite thing to talk about. But the two bullet points that I don't want to forget to say is a lot of people don't know that your entire body, every single cell, especially your brain and your liver and your muscles, are more active at night when you're asleep than they are during the day.
We need to get these
Even,
slides up. You're talking about my slides already.
I'm
That's awesome.
sorry, I didn't know that I'm psychically quoting your slides.
Yeah.
So if you want
Okay,
me
so
to,
let's start with the slides.
I
yes,
think
I
it's
will talk.
amazing. Yeah, let's go off.
Let's
Yeah,
start it.
of these just for a little bit. Okay, so I don't know how clear this is for everybody, but as long as I can read it to you, I guess that's what kind of matters,
It
right?
it looks good to me.
All right, let me pull up something real fast and on my end, sorry. All right. Okay. So it says Sleeping Beauty looks so beautiful because of all that sleep she was getting. This is science shows us that the quality of sleep helps repair the body. It repairs muscles, bone building, it improves the pancreas, it repairs the skin, and it detoxes the brain. A good night's rest isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. So sleep deprivation comes with consequences that are really scary. All right, so let me go ahead and go to the next one.
I want to say something about the detoxing of the brain real quick.
Oh yeah,
It's just recently known that people that they have come up with the knowledge that the brain is detoxing while we're sleeping.
mm-hmm.
For a long time they didn't think that the brain was detoxing at all. They just thought that it was just there.
Yeah.
We have a lymphatic system that detox the rest of our body, but when it comes to the head up, they didn't know there is no lymphatic system. So they figured out, oh, the brain has a fluid that literally cleanses it.
And we might talk about that too.
Okay.
I got some on those slides too. Yep.
Okay.
You're absolutely right.
Cerebrospinal fluid, one of my favorite words.
That's right.
All right.
Okay, Crystal.
So this says nearly 40% of adults nod off during the day in the past month. 5% have done so during driving. This doubles the chance of calling in sick. 45% of teens don't get 9 hours needed, and 25% of teens nod off in class. And this is known by the National Sleep Foundation, and this survey was done back in 2014. So think about that. You know, times have changed since then. People are more likely getting less sleep. So, all right. My next one. All right. My end. Here we go. All right. What happens when we sleep? All right. The old school thought was we are just powering down like a computer going on idle. That's kind of what Kathy was talking about, where like back in the day, they didn't think sleep or the brain could detox. It just did that. New science shows that, in fact, our brain starts working, unlike being awake. Neurons wake up and kick in a flood, and then they flood to the brain with hypnotic flow. I'm sorry.
It's okay.
It processes data from the daytime and runs back like backup checks. So it's like a computer running its analysis while you're sleeping.
Or defragging as well.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
Right.
So the benefits when we sleep, you know, it improves concentration, it sharpens your memory, and it helps to burn fat and be fit. A lot of people don't know that. Like when you get more sleep, it helps to lose weight. And that also shows that sleep lowers the risk of type 2 diabetes, depression, anxiety, Alzheimer's, osteoporosis, and cancer. And this was done by the Brown University in 2014. Okay. All right, here we go. All right, so it only works if we get enough of quality uninterrupted sleep. So 8 to 9.5 hours of sleep is what we should basically minimally be getting. No pharmaceutical is capable of these benefits of regulation. That's kind of what Dr. Hollis was talking about. You cannot force things, you cannot put things in the body to make it do what it needs to do. Roughly 70 million Americans every night do not get a good night's rest. The CDC now considers insufficient sleep an epidemic.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
I agree.
Not to mention how much it actually, not to mention how it actually causes car accidents and heart attacks.
Mm-hmm.
There are a lot of things when we go from daylight saving time to whatever that other thing is called. There are more heart attacks that happen because our clock is off.
Yep,
and
absolutely.
also sleep deprivation, you guys, causes a lot. It's more prevalent than drunk driving. And people don't understand nor realize that. But when you are behind the wheel and you are tired, your cognitive abilities are not able to deal with the reflexes.
Absolutely.
And so therefore, if you're sleeping behind the wheel, which I am very guilty of, I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm very guilty of sleeping behind the wheel for a couple of reasons. And not because of me being negligent. I just didn't realize that I was that sleepy.
Yeah.
I didn't know. And so one of it was because I was bleeding out every month. My
Wow.
menstrual periods were so bad that I was bleeding out every month. I was very, very anemic. I didn't understand nor realize. Went to the doctor and we fixed that. But then I got better.
Sorry.
That's okay. And the other thing is when we're sleep deprived, we just don't, a lot of times we don't know it. And that's another reason why this is a real good subject to do, because we don't understand how detrimental it is for our own bodies.
Absolutely.
Well, the third most common internal medicine diagnosis that I treat is chronic fatigue syndrome. And most patients have come in and they've already Googled and they've already self-diagnosed, and they're convinced that they have Addison's disease and Huntington's disease, and they think that they have complete endocrine shutdown, and they're convinced that it's got to be something huge, maybe even just anemia. But then they never tell me that they've analyzed their sleep. So that's the first thing that I check, and it's 35% of the time it is the main culprit.
Yep.
And if it's not the cause, it is a primary contributor to the cause.
Yeah.
And so we talk about sleep, and then we talk about anemia or anything else like that, or the thyroid or something. But
I don't know if you've ever heard chronic fatigue syndrome. Like they found out some of the main causes of chronic fatigue syndrome is Epstein-Barr virus. Have you ever heard of that?
Yes, we treat that virus. It's called varicella zoster. It is very common to stick around in people's bodies. Even if you didn't know you had it, it can still live on, and it can come back and reactivate itself during times of stress or lack of sleep or any type of life trauma. One of the most important things about that is if your body is holding on to that. A lot of people will say that they had mono back in college, right? But then they forget that that virus is part of the herpes virus family, and those viruses can live in your own nerve cells where your immune system can't kill them, and they can come back again, just like shingles is reactivation of chickenpox. You can get that mononucleosis again and again and again all the time back during your life. And I'm sorry, I need to requote myself. The Epstein-Barr virus is the cause of mono, and then I was ahead of myself when I was going to talk about chickenpox. That's the varicella zoster virus. But they're both herpes family of viruses. They can live in your liver and cause hepatitis, which we call non-alcoholic cirrhosis of the liver. They can hide in your pancreas and cause insulin resistance and diabetes, even if there's no family history of diabetes. They can hide in your spleen, and they can mess with the breakdown of red blood cells, which is what's going to cause an abnormal platelet count and different types of anemia, like something that we call thalassemia. And that is very dangerous.
Yeah.
So yes, we run a comprehensive blood work panel on our internal medicine patients if they wish it, and we include the full 4-factor check for the Epstein-Barr virus, not just the one titer check that most doctors will run if you can talk them into it. But we run the 4-factor test that tells us, one, if you've ever had it, if you have it again being reactivated from the past, whether it's an acute infection and it's the first time you ever had it, or if it's what we call pseudomono, which is a totally different problem.
Yeah.
I know that sleep also helps with the immune system.
Yes.
And that is another reason why lack of sleep absolutely deteriorates your immune system. So you have to be able to sleep in order to have that immune system up and going. I've seen so many people get ill from not getting enough sleep. And yeah.
Yep.
So go ahead with the other slide. I'm sorry. I don't know.
No, you're.
Have, but...
Hopefully we can get through them. We'll see.
Okay.
So arm REM, rapid eye movement sleep. This is really important because this is our deepest sleep. It stimulates the brain regions used in learning mental skills. It increased production of proteins, anti-aging, which Dr. Hollis was talking about. The brain is more active during sleep than awake. Is that not like surprise you? Like, because when I learned this, I was like, that really surprised me, because you would think while you're awake, your brain is more active. And another thing is, our gut is like our second brain, right? It has been proven the very same cells and neural network that is present in the brain in the skull is present in the gut. Second brain releases same neurotransmitters as brain and skull. 90% of the fibers in the primary visceral nerve, which is the vagus, carry information from the gut to the brain and not the other way around.
Right. And that vagus nerve exits the spine right at the base of the skull on the top of the first cervical vertebrae, which is hands down the most important bone in the spine that should be adjusted with a skilled chiropractic physician. That vagus nerve, if it's being pinched by that cervical number 1, which we call the atlas bone, if it's being pinched by that atlas, it can cause all kinds of different problems everywhere in your body.
Absolutely. Including heart problems. You have to get that oxygen to go to the brain. And if that vagus nerve is being pressed off, you're going to be cutting off oxygen and blood flow to the heart and the brain.
Correct.
Okay. All right. So it says I'm not even going to pronounce his name. This is from Rochester University. Yeah. I don't want to butcher his name. The whole body uses energy in the day. The body gets rid of garbage by the liver, kidneys, and the lymph. But the brain has no such thing. She found that glial cells to be a pump of sorts, like a lymphatic pump. So in the day, they don't do much, but at sleep, they become active. The brain shrinks, which makes more room for the spinal fluid to wash out debris like a dishwasher. And then, all right, so it says the what. So, well, if we don't get enough sleep, the glial cells can't get rid of garbage. It piles up, leading to a whole host of neurodegenerative disorders. And that was by that doctor that we just discussed. All right, so it rears its ugly head. Leader researcher, it says, School of Medicine, University Penn. Brain cells get overworked like double shift employees. If no good sleep, they collapse. During sleep, the brain uses antioxidants to mop up daily work. If not, the cells die off permanently. The brain ages. So the busy brain. Some can't sleep well due to the brain keeping busy and stimulated. It won't turn off or shut down. So a lot of times, we can use GABA or magnesium or selenium tortosium. Right here where it says GABA. So it's gamma amino butyric acid, helps to quiet down the firing during the day, supporting the nervous system and the function. So that that almost works like passion flower in a way, where if you have mental chatter, and you can't shut your brain down at night, that will help you stop overthinking at night, so you can shut your brain down and go to sleep. Selenium tortosium quiets the anxiousness at night. So if you get anxiety at night, it helps make someone less anxious. And then the magnesium is also a great natural muscle relaxer. I really love magnesium, and I always take it at night. It helps me to sleep wonderfully. Brain detoxification, and this is what we were talking about a little bit earlier. The brain detox. Sleep is the time it checks balances, hormones, enzymes, and protein levels. It's when you're sleeping, it's cleaning molecules, sweeping out toxic debris, free radicals, and spent molecules. It's nature's I forgot
Panacea.
Panacea. Yes, thank you. More powerful than any drug or chemical to restore and rejuvenate. It's not just the brain, but the body too. Sleep is the only time the brain can catch its breath. So basically, it's detoxing, but it's helping your brain to, when it's detoxing, so you can, shut down your mind. Because sometimes we overthink during the day. If we don't get enough sleep, we're going to have more anxiety, throughout the day. Okay. And then we have what nutrients do we require for sleep? The
Do you want
capacity
me
of
to,
the. Oh, yeah,
sorry,
go ahead.
do
Yeah,
you
go
want me to
ahead.
read this slide?
Yeah, I would love for you to chime in here. That'd be great.
What nutrients the brain requires to sleep just right. This is a very important slide. As a nutritionist, I harp about this all the time.
Okay.
So if you were to put this in technological terms, they say the capacity of the brain is 1 million gigabytes. It's actually closer to about that many terabytes, 1,000 times larger. And that's a lot of energy, and it also creates a lot of toxicity, which we call oxygenation from the metabolism of the brain. So there are a slew of different nutrients that help it. Most of them are specialized amino acids. So L-taurine and L-theanine are the two most important. That is followed by L-glutamine, magnesium, zinc, and melatonin, which is a hormone. And there's GABA, as already mentioned, but I want to really harp on the phosphatidylserine. Is a very, very important nutrient that most people don't get in their diet. So we supplement almost every neurodegenerative disorder patient, or just an anxiety patient, or even just a brain fog patient with the phosphatidylserine. There's also 5-hydroxytryptophan, which is different than regular tryptophan. That's very important that you take the correct form. And then there's about 6 different B vitamins, and then there's a whole bunch of antioxidants. The most important is ALA, which is alpha lipoic acid, and then there's lycopene, and I would also like to throw in there a bunch of other omega 3s, omega 6s that you need to take every day to help keep the brain healthy as well.
Absolutely.
So
Absolutely.
do you have the actual supplements for those?
Yes, we carry the nutraceutical version of those dietary supplements. They are prescription only, pharmaceutical grade, natural nutrients. Some of them come in protocols where 5 or 6 things are put together in a known combination that has a synergistic effect to where they work better than taking individual doses of 1 or 2 or even 3 of those. But some of them, like L-glutamine, they are not stable in mixed in with other compounds unless it's done correctly. So sometimes we will give those by themselves. An even better example that for the brain and for sleep is L-glutathione, which is different than glutamine. It's not amino acid. It is actually one of the essential fatty acids, and it is only absorbed properly as a dietary supplement if it's in a liposomal form. So we teach people that you may read that glutathione is important, but it depends on how you get it, where you get it, and how it was made. So we only make recommendations of companies that are nutraceutically certified. They are not regular over-the-counter companies, and they're not the kind of products that just anybody can sell.
Right. Yeah. All right, you guys. It is almost an hour into this. I don't want to say goodbye, but I know Dr. Hollis has to eat his lunch.
Yep, yep.
I can go on forever about sleep, honest and truly, because I don't think that we've even
We
chipped
haven't touched the
the
surface. No.
iceberg. Yeah, I think there's so much more we can say about this subject. Go
Are
ahead,
there
Absolutely.
more
Dr. Hollis.
slides? Are there more
There's a few
slides?
more, but we can get to them maybe. We can extend the sleep talk on another
I,
Wellness Wednesday.
I can do a whole sleep talk.
I would
Um,
Exactly.
love that.
can I say
Exactly.
one more thing right now, though,
Sure.
that's
Yeah.
super critical? The reason we recommend 9 as a minimum, not 7 and not 8, is it takes the average human 3 hours to complete one REM cycle. And
Hmm.
what a lot of people don't know is that the brain starts it, goes through it, and then turns it off in order to fully heal from it. So
Yep.
then it has to start a second one. And that's what that slide was mentioning about not interrupting those. Because if you get halfway through an REM cycle and you get woke up, by your bladder or by your arthritis or by your dog or your cat or your spouse. If you interrupt it, even if you're halfway through, you get zero benefit. It stops being helpful. So then you have to go back to sleep and you have to start another cycle of REM sleep. And so to get 3 full cycles, which is what all of the research shows is the very best combination, you need 9 hours uninterrupted to get 3 REM cycles done in one night.
And I have no idea how that's even possible when I have to get up several times through the night to go to the bathroom. And that's why it is an epidemic when you are, that's it 100% right there. Because I'm not the only one.
That you're not. And another thing is that is really important. We should not be hitting the snooze button when we wake up. Because your body, like you said, has that 3 to 4 hour mark where you have that REM sleep. And if you go back to sleep just for 15 minutes, your body's trying to start that cycle again and you interrupted it again. And then you're wondering why you're groggy for 4 hours later trying to get through a couple cups of coffee.
There's no such thing as a power nap?
There is.
That's different.
Okay.
Yeah, that's different.
We do prescribe naps halfway through the day when you've already been up for 4 to 6 hours.
Okay.
But Crystal is correct. You should just pop up out of bed and start walking around when your alarm first goes off. When you snooze, you confuse the cortisol, which is the hormone that tells your body to get up and start turning everything on. And
which is another point too. If your body can wake itself up without the alarm, there's a whole nother subject on that as well.
Meridian clock. Your cycle.
My body wakes up at the same day, even on a weekend, even if I don't have an alarm. And it's always 10 minutes before my alarm. It even does it even does it on vacation when I'm trying to sleep for 12 hours.
Yeah.
Your body knows too when like if you set an alarm, let's say 6 o'clock and it wakes up at 5:50, your body doesn't like to be woken up by something.
Absolutely.
So it naturally knows to wake itself up before that happens. And I love that about our body.
It learns a memory. We also are very thorough in my clinic. When we discuss this, we even go as far down the rabbit hole as to teach people to not use a sudden, loud, noisy shock. You don't want to make a shock alarm. You want it to be soft music, like classical music. You want it to be like an ocean wave, a sound producer. Maybe a talk radio where the person's not yelling. But a loud that is not a good way for your brain to wake up.
Another thing is black out all of the lights.
Yes. Blackout curtains.
Yeah, if you can I use the masks. If you can put the masks in, and some people have to do earplugs. My daughter has to do earplugs. So if you guys are those type of people, there's nothing wrong with that. Do what you got to do to get your sleep in.
I use a mask and earplugs. I'm not going to lie.
Actually, for people who feel like they need one or both of those, that is a known pattern of a hormone imbalance in the neurotransmitters of your brain. I can fix that.
Wow.
They did studies. They did studies on New Yorkers and how they can sleep when the city is awake all night long. And there's car horns and there's car alarms and there's trash trucks. How do those people come home and go to sleep? And they discovered that there's a certain level of neurotransmitters that will adapt for that noise. But if you don't readapt for there being a lack of noise, you can't reset that balance.
You know what?
That makes sense.
It can also, a lot. I know we're running late on time, but man, talking about toxins in the brain too. I have been using something recently where I literally have not had to put on my eye mask or my earplugs in, and I'm not kidding you. I cannot sleep without that normally, and I've fell asleep without it doing this new detox that pulls out these heavy metals and other types of things. It balances pH, and gets out yeast, all kinds of stuff. And I had better sleep within the first 2 days of doing it. And
Good
I haven't
job.
had to use that as much. So, I mean,
Now, what doctor is saying, it stands to reason as to why you're able to sleep better on that new spray that I know that you're talking about. That new detox.
well, the
Also, they were
hormones.
talking about Alzheimer's and the cleaning of the brain at night and how people aren't able to get that cleansing of the brain. And that's part of the reason why that's sticky, because it's a sticky substance that is attaching itself to the brain when it's not being washed. And they're saying that that has something to do with Alzheimer's as well. So I'm telling you what, you guys, again, we can talk about this until Dr. Hollis has his next patient, but we better let him go. We better let you guys go. But please
Yeah.
share this video.
Yes,
Keep this
like,
video
share.
going because it's so important. You don't understand how important sleep is until you don't have it. And you're like, why am I so grouchy? Well, hello. I mean, it affects your personality as well. Like I said, we can go on forever. But we just want to thank you for joining us for Wellness Wednesday on Thursday with Dr. Hollis. We will change our no. We will change our schedule for him. He is too knowledgeable and too important for us not to accommodate him. So if you guys see us, doing what we got to do, is because we have to do it for Dr. Hollis. But at the same time, we want you to like and share, and please subscribe to our website that you see that's scrolling below, and we will see you on Friday for what?
All
For
right.
what are we doing for Friday?
We're doing 5 of the day.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, thank you so much. You have a great day. Thank you.